for my topic, what I did was I looked at the lives of the SS within the concentration camps, and that's a very specific, within the concentration camps, it really wasn't anything else. So that was like my topic that I want to cover, and I wanted, about half my presentation, I'm going to talk about the information that I learned, and the other half, or other big portion, I want to talk about my personal struggle with it and my experience with it, because that was a really big deal. So, who were the SS? Very briefly, the SS were Germany's elite soldier. They were the prime soldier. They were specifically trained and highly skilled, really for one purpose, which is to kill. That was their main role. They were originally recruited because of their physical aptitude and their intelligence. They were very, very smart. Most importantly, throughout the presentation, what I really want you to think about is that they were people, just like us. You know, they were students, they were teachers, government officials, lawyers, doctors. They were smart people. I'd say that as the war went on and Germany became a little bit more desperate, they sort of got lazy and allowed more SS members who weren't as qualified in. But it's very important to remember that the SS were people, just like you and me. So what was their job? First and foremost, bar none, was to preserve the Aryan race through the mass extermination of all other people, and in this case specifically Jews. That was the main role to keep in mind, especially throughout this presentation. In terms of within the camp, they would patrol the grounds, so they'd walk around and make sure that everyone was doing their work, which I think is more, appropriately coined forced labor or torture. In Night, Elie Wiesel did a great job of explaining. Remember, there's a scene where an SS member was talking to a bunch of the prisoners and said, "This isn't a convalescent home. It's not like a place to heal. It's not a place of rest. This is a place of work, and you have to choose between the crematory and doing what we say, work." So it was the SS job to make sure that was actually happening, doing things like roll call, which, as was mentioned earlier today, it was done for hours in the testimony we just heard. It was done for hours in the cold, heat, whatever. They were both pretty torturous and horrendous. What else was their job? Again, mass extermination. This was a main role, to kill as many people as possible. They started out with inefficient methods, you could say, with killing people one by one. Then they progressed to things like killing them in the back of a car with the exhaust going into and suffocating people that way. Finally, they moved on to what's called Zyklon B, which is a pesticide, which they would pour it in and it would kill hundreds of people at a time. We actually saw this in a scene in The Boy in Striped Pajamas when it was actually, this struck a chord with me personally. It was about 10 seconds long. I don't even know if you guys remember it. All we saw was the SS guard open the door, pour the Zyklon B in, close the door, and leave. That was it. That's all we saw. Very nonchalant. He did it like it was another day at work, and that's all they portrayed. Whether the director meant it to or not, that was exactly how it was. It was just another day in the life. And then another thing I really want to mention is there was a quote that I read, I think it was in the SS of Treblinka, which was really a very insightful book. A former SS member was noted as saying the gassings were beneficial, not only because they were more efficient, but because they would spare the SS from psychological suffering. So you can see it had absolutely nothing to do, they didn't care about who they were killing, they were more concerned with the SS and their psychological welfare. What do they do in the break room? I remember when I met with Dr. Isaacs, this was really the question that got me interested in this topic. I wanted to, how could these people do horrible things and go about a normal day? I had no idea, so I was really interested in what they did in the break room. So I have two quotes here. One is, this Sunday afternoon from 4 till 8, a party in the club, the SS Walking Club, with supper, free beer, and cigarettes. The next was on September 20th, 1942. This Sunday afternoon from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., I listened to a concert of the Prisoners Band in Glorious Sunshine. The bandmaster was the conductor of the Warsaw State Opera, 80 musicians. These were both by Johann Paul Kramer, and he was a medical doctor stationed in Auschwitz. So this gives us a very clear insight into when they were on break, they were very easily able to enjoy themselves, just like we would. They loved music, they liked good food, they like beer, just normal people. Oh, I'm sorry, that picture right here is Johann Paul Kramer. What else did they burn during the break room? This was very shocking to me. There was actually, these two pictures are from a recent, thanks to Professor Isaacs for them. These two pictures are from a recent album that was sent in anonymously, and it shows the SS at what was their retreat center from Auschwitz. It was a short drive away. In this picture, we see SS men, women, and probably their children, I would assume, sunbathing in what's called Salah Fouet, which was the retreat center. In this picture right here, this one really struck a chord with me. We have a bunch of SS women with one notable SS guy. Cut out of the picture was a guy playing the accordion, and they're eating fresh blueberries. But what's really crazy about this is if you look especially at this woman here and a couple other women, they're turning their bowls upside down and making mock sad faces, which, I'm not a historian, I can't really analyze this professionally, but I took it as maybe they were mocking the prisoners back at Auschwitz. And then why did they do it? So it's really important to remember that they were educated from the time they were young through culture, school, religion, propaganda, that Jews specifically were not even people. This was constantly hammered into their mind. We even heard Ann Jaffe talk about it in her testimony, about how the priest wouldn't tell the kids to stop because he was teaching them that Jews were bad. So all the time, constantly, over and over and over again, they're getting taught they can't, So the important thing to remember is that this is very normal for them. It's not as though they're doing anything bad in their eyes. They knew that they were killing, and that's wrong, but the people they were killing, it just seemed normal. So to emphasize that, I wanted to have another quote from Johann Paul Kramer. It was, "This night was present at the 6th and 7th Special Actions. At 8 o'clock in the evening, supper in the home with a soldier, a truly festive meal. We had baked pie as much of it as we wanted, real coffee, excellent beer, and sandwiches." In the same paragraph, right, one another. So it's as though it doesn't even matter that these things are going on. It's totally as if they're equal. Another quote, "This noon was present at a special action in the women's camp in the evening at about 8 p.m. Another special action with a draft from Holland. SS men compete to take part in such actions as they get additional rations, 1/5 liter of vodka, 5 cigarettes, 100 grams of sausage and bread." So they were being rewarded for these killings. This was something that they were, if they did it, very, very good. They were happy. They got rewarded for it. So now we get to my personal struggle with this topic. Number one, I'm a science guy. I'm a health behavior science major with a minor in strength and conditioning. I love looking at research with a control group, an experimental group, in a controlled study design and saying, well, here are the flaws, here's why it might happen, this is proven, this isn't proven. It's not how it works. I don't know if the person writing a book I was reading had bias. I don't know if someone lied in their testimony. I don't know any of that. I mean, to be totally honest, I'm Jewish, so I have a bias. So take that into consideration when you hear this, what I'm saying. So interpreting the data was very difficult for me coming from that science background. Additionally, this was huge. As I said, I'm Jewish, so I had to sort of think, am I betraying my cultural identity, my Jewish identity, in humanizing these people who killed all the Jews? Is that okay? Is that not okay? I wasn't really sure, and specifically, a lot of people that I mentioned this to, and notably my mother, were not very happy that I chose this topic. It wasn't something they want to hear about. They don't want to hear that they're people. All they know is that millions of our people died, and they don't want to hear about it. And I can't blame them, but that was very difficult for me going into this project. And then what I really started to think about towards the end was the SS did what they did because they dehumanized the Jews, and they dehumanized the people other than the Aryan race. It was as though they weren't on the same level, they were a different specimen. And in my eyes, I started to think, if we can't humanize them, are we committing the same crime? Are we possibly leading up to what they did to us? If we can't view them as people, is that okay? Is that justified? That was a really big question for me. And I started to think, the SS, as Eric said earlier, the SS weren't born evil. Their beliefs were shaped by education and culture and propaganda. So the people now, the Germans now, they have prejudices against them. Is that really fair? Is that doing the same crime that they did to us? Just part of a very big struggle of mine. And then, what is my purpose through this project? Through learning about the SS lives, we can understand not only how the Holocaust happened, but how it was able to persist, and how to prevent it from happening in the future, which is really why it's important for me to discuss, the humanization aspect. Because if we can recognize that we're dehumanizing someone in the same way they did it to us, we might be able to recognize what's going on. This quote was very important to me in that sense, in that those who do evil do not usually look like monsters, madmen, or sadists. They usually look just like you and me. And that's very important to understand, that evil doesn't look any different, and it doesn't just come up out of nowhere. It builds up gradually over time, and to be able to recognize that and understand it is extremely important. And then my methodology, as I said, it was initially very difficult for me to find information. From there, I started finding testimonials both from Holocaust survivors as well as actual SS members, and those were instrumental in my research and learning about it. Photography was huge. Again, I'm not a historian and I'm not a professional, but through looking at the pictures, I was really able to gain a better understanding of their lives, especially in things like their retreatment centers and their everyday feelings toward things. I actually have, courtesy of Dr. Isaacs, part of a New York Times article with other pictures of the SS members. I'll give you that. And I'll give you that to pass around.
Eric, can you turn the light on for us, please?
And books, there were way too many books to count, but specifically the SS of Treblinka and Hitler's Willing Executioners were very good resources. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum online, and then Ann Jaffe's testimony that we all heard together was really insightful and gave me a lot to think about. So that's where I'll leave you.